Hope Solo has won more games and recorded more shutouts for the U.S. women's national soccer team than any other goalkeeper in history. But the numbers alone don't tell the story of one of the greatest to ever play the game. Solo is a fighter whose intensity and drive for greatness has powered the U.S. to become the #1 team in the world and pioneers in a campaign for equal pay. But the same fire that makes Solo so good has also gotten her in trouble with opponents, teammates, the law, and her bosses at the U.S. Soccer Federation. Last August, they terminated her contract and suspended her for 6 months. Not long after, she had shoulder replacement surgery, putting her playing future in doubt. But she isn't yet ready to concede. This particular moment in her life seems pretty well described by 7 words the goalkeeper has tattooed on her back.
Persecuted, not forsaken, cast down, not destroyed. Mm-hmm. And when you get knocked down, get up, basically.
And why did you have that tattooed on your back?
Because you always have to keep fighting.
For nearly 20 years, Hope Solo has been fighting, saving, and winning in goal for the #1 women's soccer team in the world.
Super Solo indeed.
In the 2012 Olympic finals versus Japan, she was the difference between silver and gold. Do you think it's the hardest position on the field?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. It's mentally the hardest position on the field. I may not be, up front scoring goals, winning games, but I can save a game and I can keep a team in a game. And I truly believe that you're not going to win any major tournament without a great goalkeeper.
Case in point, the 2015 World Cup in Canada, where Hope Solo proved again that the #1 on her jersey is not just for show. Is there a greatest moment in your career?
Winning the World Cup. I mean, it's everything I had ever wanted was to win that World Cup trophy.
In 202 international games for the U.S., she has won 153 times.
Hope Solo 100 career shutouts.
And was the first to ever reach 100 shutouts. And how do those numbers rank to other goalkeepers who've played for the U.S., male or female?
It is the best stats in the history of goalkeeping in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
Do you feel that's been acknowledged?
No, I don't.
Solo may feel underappreciated, but her career hasn't been all gold and glory.
When the ball went through my legs in the Olympics, this last Olympics against Colombia, I just was like, oh, ouch, that happens. But I stood in front of the cameras and I just said, you know what? Welcome to goalkeeping.
That embarrassing lapse on the field was only the beginning of what could be the end. A devastating upset against Sweden in the quarterfinals followed. The Swedes played ugly, hanging on for a draw in regulation and then winning in a penalty shootout. Hope Solo said after the match that the better team had lost. She added that the Swedes played like cowards. When a reporter tweeted that out, all hell broke loose. Solo's contract with the U.S. national team was terminated, and she was suspended for 6 months. A documentary crew from a company called Fullscreen was following her when she got the news.
Terminated contracts, effective immediately. Terminated contracts, not just a suspension.
U.S. Soccer said in a statement that her words were unacceptable and their action took into consideration past incidents. Were you surprised that calling another team cowards ended up being a fireable offense?
I never thought you could get fired for being a poor sport. I was a poor sport. We just lost the Olympics. We're supposed to be the #1 team in the world. It's okay to be passionate. It's okay to hurt.
Not widely known is that for several years, Solo had been playing with a different kind of pain. Before her U.S. soccer health insurance ran out, she decided to use this forced sabbatical to have long-needed surgery on her right shoulder. Can I see your scar?
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Tell me what they did.
Complete shoulder replacement surgery. I now have a titanium rod going down all the way to my elbow. The rehab is tough. It's about a 2-year full recovery. I'm way ahead of schedule. So I expect to be back and able to perform at a high level within the next year.
Hope Solo's road to recovery runs straight across the country.
Hey.
She and her husband, former NFL tight end Jeremy Stevens, and their 3 Dobermans are driving their RV from Seattle, where they lived, to a new house in North Carolina that they're building. We caught up with them outside Little Rock, on the banks of the Arkansas River, where Solo seemed to be on a working holiday, enjoying the trip, but also continuing the rehab on her shoulder and staying fit. Do you feel like it's the first time you've ever really taken a lot of time off?
Absolutely. This is the first time since I started playing soccer.
Hope Solo started playing as a little girl in Richland, Washington. Mostly raised by her mother and grandparents, her father was a homeless Vietnam veteran who drifted in and out of jail. But he still came to see her play. She didn't begin her career saving goals, but scoring them as a forward. So then how'd you end up in the goal?
Goalkeeper got hurt, and our coach says, "Who wants to try out for goalkeeper?" We all were like, "Oh, I'll try." We all raised our hands and lined up to get in goal. You know, back then, goalkeepers weren't necessarily quick and agile and fit and fast. They used to put the overweight kid in goal, which is one of my biggest pet peeves here in America, because goalkeepers need to be fit, they need to be agile, they have to be hardworking, and there's no reason to have overweight goalkeepers.
Tell us how you really feel.
To me, that's respecting the position. People kept saying you could be the best in the world. You know, there aren't a lot of great goalkeepers. And I think people just saw my potential.
People said to you, you can be the best in the world. You believed them.
I did. I wanted to be the best at something. I wanted to be great. And it felt like my ticket.
Shoots. Deflected by Solo.
At the University of Washington, Solo smashed every major goalkeeping record, and while still in college, debuted with Team USA. She says she'll never forget the lessons taught to her by some of the giants of the game.
And the goal!
Like the time Mia Hamm told her she was kicking the ball wrong.
She just stops. It goes right to her, and she just stops. And she's like, "You need to learn how to bleepity bleep, drop kick the ball before I ever try and hit that." And I just was like,
This is Mia Hamm to you.
oh my gosh. I worked every day after training on my drop kick, and then I can proudly say that I have one of the best drop kicks in the game. But it
Because
was,
of Mia
it was
Hamm.
all because of Mia Hamm. And she was hard, but she was challenging, and she held people accountable.
You're like 19 at that point, right?
Oh yeah, I was a baby.
As Hope Solo grew into the role as the United States #1 keeper, she began to tell her teammates what she expected of them.
The one thing I never accepted was laziness on the field. If I saw a player just choose not to get into position, that wasn't okay.
Did that earn you some enemies?
Enemies is a very strong word.
She was not laughing in 2007 after being left out of the World Cup semifinal match against Brazil. If her expression on the bench didn't tell the story, her post-game comments on Coach Greg Ryan's decision left little doubt.
It was the wrong decision, and I think anybody that knows anything about the game knows that. There's no doubt in my mind I would have made those saves.
Benched by her coach and then shunned by most of her teammates, she apologized at the time, but also told us there's a double standard for men and women in sports.
It's a battle on the field. You know, this is our livelihood. This is a battle. We're representing our country. You don't have time to ask nicely. You have to be demanding of one another. I wish more female athletes had that intensity. Otherwise, to me, it's just girl sports.
You bring that same intensity off the field.
In certain situations, I'm sure I do.
That intensity has on occasion gotten her in trouble with the law. In 2015, Solo's husband was arrested for DUI while driving a U.S. soccer van during a training camp. Solo was sitting in the passenger seat and was again suspended from the team for 30 days. The year before, she was charged with 2 counts of domestic assault after a night of drinking and a fight with her half-sister and 17-year-old nephew. I want to ask you, though, about some tough times in your personal life. Do you think that's all behind you now?
I've learned a lot of lessons down the road. Whew. Boy, haven't I ever. Somebody recently asked me, do you have any regrets? The only thing that I really regret in life is not saying goodbye to people sooner before it became unhealthy.
This is the 2014 assault after a fight with your half-sister and nephew. Why was it an unhealthy relationship?
You know, it's probably no different than a lot of stories that you hear with NFL players or basketball players who just make millions of dollars and then all of a sudden they're taking care of family members and they never know when to say goodbye and cut it off. Well, I didn't know when to cut it off, and I should have cut it off way earlier than I did.
Where does that case stand today?
Ongoing, I guess. I would love some closure.
The charges were dismissed, but prosecutors appealed that ruling and are trying to bring the case to trial. Also ongoing is the rift with the U.S. Soccer Federation. During our interview, she criticized head coach Jill Ellis as a poor leader and bad tactician. We asked her if she's heard from Ellis or U.S. Soccer President Sunil Gulati since she was let go in August.
Since the day I got fired, I haven't had one phone call, one text message, one email from any staff member on the team.
Have you tried calling them?
I have not. Keep in mind, I was very close to many of our staff members, our equipment guy, to our trainers. So I found it very strange that nobody reached out to me.
Do you think some of your teammates were happy to see you go?
Well, I mean, that's saying a lot. We won a World Cup together, and we fought hard for one another on the field, and we were in the fight of our lives to fight for equal pay.
She's been the most vocal proponent for equal pay on the women's team and is one of 5 players who filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It accused U.S. Soccer of breaking laws that protect female employees against gender discrimination. The women typically make less money per game than the U.S. men's team.
I think the Federation thought that if they removed me from the team, then they could also remove me from this fight for equal pay. And they got that wrong because I am more impassioned about this fight now than I ever have been before.
U.S. Soccer President Sunil Gulati declined our interview request and insists Hope Solo's role in the equal pay fight was unrelated to her being kicked off the team. Last fall, we asked U.S. national team captains Carly Lloyd and Becky Sauerbrunn if the pay dispute had anything to do with her firing. Do you think that Hope Solo's prominent position in this fight had anything to do with her being kicked off the team?
I think there were multiple things that led to Hope's suspension and termination, but I'm not sure. Could it be? It could possibly be.
All I know that is if U.S. Soccer did do that and they think that, silencing Hope or terminating Hope would make our fight not as strong, that they're very mistaken. It's not going to get easier for them.
The women's employment contract with U.S. Soccer expired on December 31st. They told us last fall they were prepared to strike, but have not filed the necessary paperwork to do so. Late last year, the team decided to fire their own lawyer, Rich Nichols, who had been personally recruited by Solo to play hardball with U.S. Soccer. The Players Association issued a statement, and they said, "We are focused on productive conversations with U.S. Soccer regarding our future." What do you think they meant by that? Productive.
They want to be nice. They want to play nice. Playing nice doesn't get results.
You have to negotiate, though.
You do have to negotiate. You have to negotiate, and I know how the Federation negotiates. They tell us what kind of contract they're going to give us. There is no negotiating. They don't negotiate, and that is why we have to come to the table and fight and change the way they've done things for the last 20 years.
But Rich Nichols also drew a line in the sand and said, we're not negotiating until we get to equal pay.
Which means the pressure falls on the players to go on strike like we discussed this entire last year, where we all sat there and said, we are ready for this. We are ready for this battle. We will do what it takes because this is for women all across the world. And this is a much bigger cause than just playing soccer. This is the right side of history. People with power don't just give it up. You have to take it and you have to fight for it.
This month, Hope Solo's suspension will end, and the 35-year-old will once again be eligible to be chosen for the U.S. national team. Whether she is wanted or whether her new shoulder will allow her to play again remain unknown.
That's what makes me so proud, is to represent our country in World Cups, Olympics. The next World Cup's in 2019.
You want to go back?
Nobody beat me out physically. And for me not to have the opportunity to see if there's another goalkeeper better than me, that doesn't seem right.
What do you think your biggest contribution to soccer will be?
10 years from now, 20 years from now, they'll look back. They'll know that I fought tooth and nail for women's rights, for civil rights, for equal pay. They'll know that I fought tooth and nail on the field every game for our country. And they will know that I changed the way goalkeeping is played. I'm proud. I can walk away today and be proud of everything I stood for. I'm not sure that day is today, but I do know that in time, history will tell the story of who Hope Solo really is.